clearing us to fire, you're cleared to fire, you're cleared to fire. My crew saying, well, we don't like this. They don't look like bad guys to us. And so that was a real defining moment to me. I listened to my crew, and you know, my crew saved about 25 or 30 guys because I was going to shoot them.
Hey aviators, welcome back to Aircraft and Aviators. Today I've got retired General McCutcheon with me. Thanks for joining us. What kind of aircraft is this?
It's a 1940 Luscombe 8A.
Okay.
All metal with fabric wings. No electrical system.
And about when was this?
65 horsepower.
Okay, 65 horse. When was this built and what was the purpose of it?
1940. And it was a civilian light plane used for training and probably sport flying or get from point A to point B.
Okay. Some specs on the aircraft. It's a two-seat aircraft?
Two-seat aircraft, 65 horse, cruises about just under 100 miles an hour.
Okay.
Actually can do 100. And has about, this particular one has about almost 20 gallons of gas. It's got two small wing tanks and a main tank, 14-gallon main tank. So you're burning about 5 gallons an hour, and you can go about 3 hours, 3.5 safely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you purchased this pretty recently.
I did about a year and a half ago up in Virginia, and it was a straight Luscombe. It hadn't been cut or modified that much, and no electrical system, just like the original airplane. And we were trying to do a replica of Luscombe that was drafted by the Army in the Panama Canal Zone in World War II, and there were two of them. They called them UC-90s, and they used them to utility cargo to support military activities in the canal. And so I read a history article on it, really good article by a Luscombe enthusiast and a Air Force reservist who flew C-130s. And so we kind of did the airplane up based on his article, had the name Junior on it, had the Army Air Force markings and everything, so that's
awesome.
What we did.
And what do you use it for now?
Well, I'm an avid sport pilot. I fly for fun. And then we've got a group here. We got about 7 or 8 World War II light plane trainers and or what they called L-birds or utility birds. And there was no civilian flying in World War II. You either flew for the military or you flew for the Civil Air Patrol. But they drafted a number of light planes like this and used them for mostly a lot of non-combat missions like this one, like this Luscombe or UC-90. Now, the L4, or was the J3 Cub, the Cub was used to train almost 75-80% of all the American pilots in World War II that started through the pilot training program. And they were painted basically yellow, and then they painted them green and put them into combat basically as a battlefield flying Jeep. And they used those as artillery spotters. And also later on, they used them for battlefield medical evacuation. It was the first of the battlefield medical evacuation. What the helicopters do today, the L-birds, the little grasshoppers as they were called, did it in World War II. And so we have these L-birds and the UC-90. We got a Stinson 10 that was the same type that flew Civil Air Patrols over the Gulf of Mexico looking for German submarines. And we do static displays at air shows, and we also work with the Boy Scouts and their merit badge, and we do a lot of memorial flights, missing man formations, that sort of thing. We supported the Doolittle Beach flight here about a month ago with the Air Force airplanes, and then we supported the Royal Air Force contingent at Eglin with about 8 light planes for their Queen Elizabeth Jubilee.
Awesome. So do you have a favorite place you've taken this aircraft?
Well, actually this airplane has landed on the front lawn of the USS Alabama. We go over to the USS Alabama in Mobile Bay, and they have the USS Drama submarine, Battleship Alabama. They have a beautiful museum, air museum there, and they have a 1,200-foot meadow in front of the battleship, and we go over there and set up a landing zone, and we take our L-birds over there 6, 7, 8 at a time. This one has actually been in there. We go in there. This is in the hot summer. This is kind of a single-seat airplane. In the winter, you put 2 people in there and go in there. But generally, we'll fly this in and land static display, and then we'll take off and do a missing man formation, and they play taps for the Battleship Alabama.
Awesome.
They have a living reenactment Navy crew down there, and they shoot. They got these guns set up with LP gas, and they got a bunch of yaks that come in and attack the battleship, and they have this
awesome.
battle and everything. And then we take off, come by, and do a missing man with taps, and then we go home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm really curious. What got you into aviation?
I grew up with it. My parents were both avid sport pilots, and then in World War II, Dad was a flying sergeant, later commissioned fighter pilot in China, and then Mom learned how to fly through the civilian pilot training program in World War II.
Oh wow!
And so growing up, I'm in J3 with my mom or Dad flying around, and Dad bought a Ryan PT-22, and for a while I flew with him in that, and so just around sport flyers all the time. And then I decided to become an Air Force pilot. Went through the ROTC program at the University of Evansville, Evansville, Indiana, and then got commissioned in '72. Went through Air Force pilot training in '73. Flew on active duty and VIP airlift and out of RAF Mildenhall, England for about 2 years. Came home, decided to leave active duty and join the reserve, and I joined an Air Force Reserve C-130 unit in my hometown, Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and flew with them for about 22 years.
Okay.
And then we built the airport and did the hobby thing.
Yeah. Now, as you were growing up with parents in aviation, was that something that you always knew, I definitely want to be a pilot, or?
I think so. And, I thought everybody's mother was a pilot. I didn't know otherwise.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Mom we had a J3 Cub on floats in Cinco Bayou in Fort Walton Beach. She'd put me in that airplane, stand on the float, prop the engine, and she and I would fly to the Destin Lagoon. This is 1955-56. Land, have lunch, and then we'd fly back. And, I thought everybody did that. I thought everybody's mother flew them to the Destin Lagoon for lunch. And she was civil service at Eglin at the time, but actually they don't. A lot of moms don't do that.
Yeah, most moms don't do that. Yeah.
But Dad was very active. He was dropping jumpers at Milton out of Cessnas, and he did air shows in his Ryan PT-22, and we towed gliders with the PT-22. He upgraded the airplane, took the Kenner off, 160 horse Kenner on the PT-22, and put a 220 Continental. So it was a really good aerobatic airplane then, and glider tug.
What was one of your favorite aircraft to fly in the Air Force, and kind of a location?
Well, I flew the Convair 240 in VIP airlift, and I enjoyed that airplane. Learned a lot about the old recip engines, and it was a great mission. I got to fly all over Europe. And then I flew gunships, C-130 Spectre gunships for 19 years. And big crew, 14 to 18 guys, so that was quite a learning experience, and saw some very exotic places in Central and South America, Honduras, Peru, Colombia, Panama, and then flew it in combat in Panama and combat in Desert Storm, and then got into tankers, C-130 Special Ops tankers, and ended up going to Bosnia for a couple of short TDYs, and just mainly the 130 is my primary background.
Okay.
Of course, my favorite airplane is always the airplane I'm in at the time.
Yep. Just like every good aviator.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite airport it sounds like you've been all over the world. Do you have a favorite airport that you've been to?
Yes, George T. McCutcheon Field, 8FL6.
I would imagine so.
Be careful about your dreams, though. You build your own airport, and then 6 months later, you figure out, I got to cut the grass. So I've spent 42 years buying tractors and bush hogs instead of airplanes, and logging time on tractors and bush hogs instead of logging time in airplanes. So be very careful about your dreams. They come true, and then you're stuck with them.
Absolutely. Well, everybody loves a good emergency or war story, something like that. Is there anything that comes to mind off the top of your head that you had emergency you had to deal with over these last decades?
Big picture, one of the defining moments of my life was combat in Panama, and I had a big crew, 14 to 18 guys flying with me. I was the aircraft commander, and we were ordered in on a enemy target, and 25 or 30 guys, and we were going to shoot them. And as it turned out, my crew said they look friendly. Now the forward air control is telling us that they're enemy. Command post is telling us enemy. Clearing us to fire. You're cleared to fire. You're cleared to fire. My crew saying, well, we don't like this. They don't look like bad guys to us. And so that was a real defining moment to me. I listened to my crew, and my crew saved about 25 or 30 guys because I was going to shoot them, but because I'm listening to the FAC and I'm listening to the command post. So that was kind of the defining moment in the Air Force for me, was crew resource management. Listen to your crew, work as a team. Don't work against each other, and that's very important in crew flying. Work together, and aircraft commanders have to really listen to their people at times to be sure they're getting the whole picture.
Yeah, excellent advice. And on that note, do you have any advice for someone that's not yet in aviation or someone that's just starting out?
I watch a lot of this going on now. There's a lot of starts, and they get to a point and they stop. First of all, allocate the resources and allocate the time and push through it. Don't get started without enough time, or don't get started without enough resources. And then when you start, push through it and pick the right weather season to do it, and push, press, and get her done. Don't stop with the plan of coming back later. Now, get your PPL, your private pilots, and you can stop then, build up resources, build up time, then go after whatever else you want, your commercial, your instrument, a seaplane rating, a glider rating. But, carve out the resources, carve out the time, and then go for it.
Absolutely. I'm really curious. Who's this on the cover of your
That's
airplane?
a Panama Princess. We informally named, in World War II, the airplane we replicated was called Junior, but on the right side we decided to put the Panama, because in World War II the American GIs, the guys, sometimes put pictures of their girlfriends on the side of the airplane. Dick Bong, the leading ace, American ace in World War II, did that. Marge was his fiancée. And so Mike Smith, longtime friend, Marine Corps, retired Marine Corps tank driver, but a very experienced commercial civilian pilot, and a very experienced Luscombe pilot. He went with me to Virginia to get the airplane. And so coming home, I said, Mike, we're going to name the airplane after your wife. And this is Diana Smith. When she was 15 years old in Panama, her father was American, her mother was Panamanian. She was born and raised in Panama. And this is her coming out party. When the girls in Panama are 15, they have a coming out party.
Oh, okay.
So she's our Panama Princess. And we put that on the side of the airplane. I made big spousal points for Mike Smith.
Awesome advice. Well, if you don't mind taking an Army helicopter pilot up in this thing, if you trust me, we should go flying.
That's pretty scary, Army helicopter pilots, let me see. They don't fly. They beat the air into submission.
That's true.